And those are the people who I think are engaged in these problems at an undergraduate level. And so these are just some of the students who've worked in my lab over the course of the past few years. And it's interesting, many have gone on to careers in the sciences, others have gone on to various, to different types of pathways. So sort of looking at this picture for a second, we have one student, Ariel Granulati, who is a graduate student now in biophysics at UC San Francisco. Lauren, who I mentioned earlier, is working in the pharmaceutical industry, as is Laura here. Dong Zhang is actually now entering into or I guess she will be entering into a Harvard MBA program. She is actually decided she is interested in science, but she is also interested in finance and eventually wants to combine those two interests at some point, but is kind of taking her lab work and going in a very different direction. Cindy Lai here is actually gone on into an MD Ph.D. program. She's interested in medicine, but also doing research at the same time. We also have some students who've gone on to organic farming, which is this student here. Had students who've gone into programs in statistics and in biostatistics, basically a range of different types of applications, but their fundamental skills that they've learned in problem solving and engaging as active scientists have prepared them well for doing that. So with that, I want to open up just for questions, but first acknowledge, so again, the work, the data that I showed was mainly done by Lauren Neveling and Thomas and Olayinka, with some help from Angela. This is a project that I began in collaboration with Jonathan King, a good friend and collaborator at the biology department at MIT. And actually, we also have a collaboration with Dan Kirshner from Boston College, so I didn't show that work here. And these are some of the folks who have supported us financially. These are some of the students being a bit silly. So I would happily take questions from you about protein folding, misfolding, students, whatever you like. Thank you very much. Yes.
Well, you know, we hear like in fitness and stuff about having protein, or protein as like for your health, to better your health. Is that connected in any way to the protein in biophysics, or I mean?
Yeah, so the major connection is that so proteins are made up of these chains of these units called amino acids. There are 20 different amino acids that are found in almost all proteins. Most of those amino acids we can synthesize, and embarrassingly off the top of my head, I've forgotten the number that we can synthesize. So looking at Rabia, who may actually remember. Yeah, I was going to say 16, 15, 16, something like that. There are a few amino acids that we can't make, but there are other other animals and plants that can. And so we need protein in our diet in part so we can get some of those essential amino acids that are found that we need for synthesizing our proteins, but that our bodies actually can't make. So so in part we need to have some protein somewhere in our diet, because without that it's difficult. We'll run out of some of the raw materials we need in order to make more protein.
So we're not bringing proteins into our body.
Right. So we actually bring them. We bring them in, but in the process of digesting, we break them up into their amino acids, and it's the amino acids that we end up sort of absorbing and then making new proteins on the other end. Yeah.
Chicago has young people and older people. You are showing older people in school and beyond. I wonder the reception to this kind of education from the younger people, the elementary and even high school, are they getting it?
And I think that at the, oh, I'm sorry, yes. So the question was, and see if I'm paraphrasing this correctly, that I've been focusing in this talk on education of basically older students, so students who are in college and beyond. And what about this type of educational approach to students before they enter college, so for elementary and at the secondary level? And I think the movement at K through 12 science education is also very much in the direction of an emphasis on discovery and experimentation and really teaching students how to solve problems. And that's I think really the essential thing, both to generate excitement among kids in terms of what science is really about, but also to begin at a very early stage of developing those skills that are going to be essential in terms of how do you observe carefully, how do you draw conclusions from observations, how do you actually think of asking a question. If you think about it, coming up with a question is amazingly hard. Sort of just actually working for the past few weeks with my daughter at home who's working on a science fair project, or coming up with a science fair project. If you think about it, asking a question that you can design an answer to is not an easy skill. It's not easy to do, and it's something you can really only do by getting some practice at doing it, or sort of learning, going through that process of it. From a personal perspective, and this is certainly opinion because I'm not at all a K through 12 educator. One of the things which does worry me is as we move towards more content-driven assessments. So assessments which are aimed at how much information has someone memorized certain pieces of information and the ability to produce them, that we lose sight of these other skills which I think are much more important. Most of the details of, even biochemistry, which I teach, I, to be honest, forget in between classes that I teach them. I know them really well that semester, but it's not. Those aren't the lasting lessons that come out of things, and that's a piece where I hope that the pendulum is kind of swinging back on the assessment end of things towards really trying to assess how students are doing as problem solvers instead of how students are doing in terms of content. Certainly, I think the most interesting curriculum development going on is in the problem-solving realm of things, and we just need to make sure that that type of curricular approach matches the assessment